So both Real Broker and eXp Realty reward their agents for helping grow the company in the form of revenue share. And on paper, both companies look like they have very similar revenue share programs, but there are actually some very significant differences between the two programs that you really need to be aware of. So today I'm going to do an in-depth comparison of Real versus eXp's revenue share programs. I'm going to be going over the differences between their policies, their different tier structures, and I'm going to run a few different scenarios to give you an idea of how much you can actually expect to make in the form of revenue share. Now, obviously, I am an agent with Real Broker, but I'm going to try to be as unbiased as I can in this comparison, show as many of my sources, and I am going to show you some scenarios where you make more money at Real and some scenarios where you make more money at eXp Realty. So in comparing the two different revenue share programs, the first thing that's going to stand out is that Real pays out on 5 tiers of agents, whereas eXp pays out on 7 tiers. But what may not be as apparent is that on those 5 tiers, Real pays out more on the majority of them. So on your tier 1, Real is going to pay out $1,200 more compared to eXp. On your tier 3, they're going to pay out $400 more. And on your tier 4, they're going to pay out $400 more. And then tier 2 and tier 5 are the same as eXp. So yes, eXp does pay out on 2 additional tiers that Real doesn't, but Real pays out more on those first 5 tiers. So if you only ever unlock your first 5 tiers at either company, you're probably going to make more money at Real Broker because of that. So now let's talk about unlocking tiers. So at Real Broker, in order to unlock the benefits of all 5 tiers of revenue share, you need to have at least 25 producing agents in your tier 1. Now at eXp, in order for you to unlock all 7 tiers of revenue share, you need to have at least 40 producing agents in your tier 1. Now, one thing I want to say about this is that it's not just about getting to that number, you also have to maintain that number. Now, we all know this industry has about a 90% failure rate. So a big portion of the agents that come into your downline, some portion of them are going to drop out of the industry altogether. You have other agents that are going to retire from the industry at some point, and we all know that a lot of agents out there, they hop from brokerage to brokerage to brokerage their entire career. So I just want to point that out, that even at Real, in order to attract and maintain 25 producing agents in your tier 1, that's a challenge in itself. That's going to take a good bit of effort. At eXp, having to almost double that number, you need 40 producing agents at all time in your tier 1. That's a really big challenge. And I just want to kind of set that expectation that that is going to be harder to hit and maintain than you probably think. Now, the two companies also have different definitions of what a producing tier 1 agent actually means. So at Real Broker, in order to be a producing agent in your tier 1, that agent has to earn at least a $3,000 commission every 6 months. So really this works out to about 1 transaction every 6 months. And those transactions can be referrals or rentals, or they could be a team leader and earning commission from their team members. Just as long as they earn $3,000 in commission every 6 months. At eXp, their definition of a frontline qualifying agent is an agent who earns $5,000 in commission every 6 months. So at eXp, you need 15 more producing agents in your tier 1 in order to unlock all of your benefits. And it's harder for those agents to qualify as producing agents in order to unlock those benefits. Now, while we're talking about producing agents, Real does have a requirement that eXp does not. And in order for you to be eligible to receive revenue share at Real Broker, you yourself have to be a producing agent. So you have to earn at least a $3,000 commission every 6 months in order for you to receive revenue share. Now, they do this because they don't want full-time recruiters joining the company. They don't want some expert on multi-level marketing getting his real estate license and then joining Real. They want producing agents in the company. I actually kind of like this policy, and I think that this has a big impact on the culture of the company as well. Now, they have talked about rolling out a policy where you can get vested, or you can be kind of grandfathered in if you're a producing agent for so many years and continue to receive revenue share, but they have not officially rolled any policy out like that just yet. Now, one thing I do want to point out about the different tier structures is that at eXp, it is easier to unlock your second tier benefits than it is at Real. You only need 5 producing agents in your tier 1 at eXp, whereas Real, you need 10 producing agents in your tier 1. Also, Real Broker is just about to start charging a 1.2% processing fee in order for you to receive revenue share. So for example, let's say you have a capping tier 1 agent who you will receive $4,000 in revenue share on. Real is going to charge a 1.2% processing fee on that. So you're actually going to get $3,952 out of the $4,000 in revenue share. Now, eXp does offer something that Real doesn't, and that's what they call their expansion shares. So let's say you have agents in tiers that you have not unlocked yet. eXp will pay you a very small amount of revenue share on those agents in tiers that you haven't unlocked yet. So for example, if you had an agent in your tier 3 at eXp, typically you would receive 2.5% of any commission that they earn until they cap. And with the expansion shares, if you don't have that tier unlocked yet, instead of 2.5%, you receive 0.1% of their commission until they cap. And most of their tiers pay out 0.1% in expansion shares. So this works out to literally a few dollars per transaction that somebody in that tier closes for you. Now, I think that the expansion shares, it sounds cool on paper that you'll receive revenue share on tiers that you haven't unlocked, but it's such a small amount that you actually receive that personally for me, it doesn't really move the needle all that much. But I do want to make you aware that they do offer this on tiers that you have not unlocked yet. Now, Real does offer a few benefits to revenue share that eXp does not, and one of them is going to be willable revenue share. So if you spend a couple of years or a career building up a downline helping grow the company, you can name somebody as your recipient of your revenue share when you pass away. Because Real marks revenue share as a marketing expense and not as a commission, the recipient of your revenue share does not have to be a licensed real estate agent. This is a marketing expense. So you can name your child or your grandchild as the recipient of your revenue share when you die. Now, I've talked about in other videos about how I have a son with very severe intellectual disabilities, and I worry a lot about what happens to him if and when I die. And this willable revenue share gives me a real sense of comfort and peace of mind, knowing that if I die tomorrow, my son will still have passive income coming in to help support him and take care of him. And I know for a lot of people out there, willable revenue share is huge. This is actually a very significant benefit to Real's revenue share program that, to my knowledge, eXp does not offer. Now, another big benefit that Real offers that eXp does not is what they're calling fractional revenue share. So if an agent comes into the company and they've been talking to multiple agents and multiple people have influenced them to join, they can actually list 2 different people as their sponsor, and that revenue share will get split between the 2 agents. And I do think that this is a really good thing for the company and the agents in the company. One, it means that instead of just a handful of really good recruiters getting all the revenue share, this is going to spread the revenue share out to more agents at the company. More agents are going to start receiving revenue share than they would otherwise if it was really only concentrated in like the biggest recruiters receiving revenue share. Another benefit is that it's really going to intertwine this community. At eXp Realty, who you choose as your sponsor is going to have a very significant impact on your experience as an agent there. And that's because at eXp, they have these silos of agents. They have these different communities of downlines, and you almost have to choose which community that you want to join. Now, Real Broker, they understand the value of the network effect. The larger a network is, the more valuable it is. And they want to move away from eXp's model of having these different silos and these different isolated communities of a few hundred agents here, 100 agents here, a couple of thousand agents here. And instead, they want to have one network, one large community of agents that we're all masterminding and networking and giving education to each other. And this fractional revenue share is going to help intertwine the networking community much, much deeper. And so I think that this is going to help them realize that vision of having one large network. It's going to help them avoid the trap of creating these isolated communities in the company and putting a big focus on what downline did you join. Now, one of the biggest differences between the 2 companies is going to be their culture around revenue share. I think it's pretty safe to say that eXp's culture is very heavily focused on revenue share and growing the company. They do this by setting these huge agent count goals of 1 million agents. That's the company's goal, to reach 1 million agents. They do this by providing a lot of training and education about building out downlines and by putting agents up on pedestals who have large networks and receive a lot of revenue share. Real Broker wanted to get away from that culture altogether. So we don't have any goals for agent count. Instead, Tamir, the CEO, says that His goals are focused on the agent experience and trying to create the best experience for the agents that he can. We also don't have a lot of training about building out downlines and recruiting, and we don't put the people with the biggest networks up on pedestals and show how much revenue share that they have. So the culture is just not as focused on revenue share at Real as it is at eXp. Now, in order to enforce this culture, Real actually has a lot of restrictions on what you can do to recruit agents that eXp does not. So for example, a Real Broker, you can't cold call real estate agents. You can't send out spam emails. You can't run paid advertisements. And probably the most significant one is that you can't promise anything of value in exchange for somebody putting your name down as their sponsor. This practice of promising something of value in order to put your name down as a sponsor is actually a huge part of the culture at eXp. There's a big emphasis on choosing what downline you join. Depending on what downline you join, they may give you some free training or access to free podcast or free mastermind, something along those lines. Real wants to get away from that altogether. They don't want a series of small isolated communities. They want one large community of agents all masterminding and networking together. So this policy that Real has of not being allowed to promise anything of value in exchange for somebody putting your name down is pretty significant and has a significant impact on the culture of the company. So now I'm going to run a few different scenarios to give you an idea of how much you can actually expect to earn in revenue share, depending on how many agents you have in the different tiers at both companies. But before I do, I want to show you my actual downline at Real Broker. I have about 50 agents in my downline right now, and I want to show you this to kind of illustrate a point. There's a lot of people on YouTube and a lot of recruiters that'll tell you that how easy it is to build a downline. If you bring in, one agent and they then go on to bring in two more agents and each of them bring on two agents and bring on two agents, so on, you're going to build out this huge pyramid of a network with growing agents at every tier. That's kind of the misconception about recruiting and building out a downline, and it couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is that the majority of agents that you bring into the company are going to bring in 0 agents. Most agents join a cloud brokerage for the low fees, the technology, the culture. They don't join a cloud brokerage to be a recruiter and to build out a downline. It is far more likely that instead of building a pyramid downline, you're going to be building an inverse pyramid where you have a lot more agents at the top tiers, and as your tiers go down, you have fewer and fewer agents. And that's a far more likely scenario. And I just want to set that expectation for you that the majority of agents that you bring into the company are going to bring in 0 agents. So here you can see my own personal downline in the Real Broker app. I'm going to blur everybody's face and names for privacy's sake, but the number on the right-hand side shows you how many agents they've brought into the company. And as you can see, we can go through and kind of look at how many zeros we have on the right-hand side. So we have 1 at the very top, and then 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 5, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 5, 0, 1, 0, 0, 2, 0, 0, 0, 0, a bunch of zeros, and a bunch more zeros. So as you can see, the vast majority of agents that I've brought into the company have gone on to bring in 0 agents, and that's just the reality at both companies. So I currently have 32 agents in my tier 1, 16 agents in my tier 2, and 2 agents in my tier 3. So for me right now, every agent that I brought into the company are bringing in 0.5 agents. So I need 2 agents in my tier 1 in order for me to get 1 agent in my tier 2. And this is just the reality. This is what most of my friends' downlines look like as well. It's a very different conception than what a lot of people try to pitch you on YouTube. So now let's go ahead and run a couple different scenarios to give you guys an idea of how much you can expect to earn in revenue share. And I think that one of the quickest and kind of down and dirty methods of doing this is just averaging out how much revenue share you earn at both companies for having 1 agent in the company. So if you average out all 5 tiers of revenue share at Real Broker, you'll see that on average you earn $2,400 a year for having an agent somewhere in your downline at Real Broker. If you average out all 7 tiers of revenue share at eXp, you'll see that on average you earn $2,285 a year for having an agent somewhere in your downline. Now obviously these are just rough estimates, and at both companies it's really going to depend on what tier they're in, but I'll give you a ballpark figure of what you can expect to earn. And just keep in mind that this is for capping agents. right? If you bring in a lot of brand new agents that don't close any transactions, obviously you're not going to really earn any revenue share on them. So all the numbers that I'm saying today, assume that these are capping agents. So let's say you have 25 capping agents somewhere in your downline. Well, at Real, you'll earn $60,000 in revenue share. At eXp, you'll earn $57,000 in revenue share. Let's say you have 50 capping agents somewhere in your downline. On average, at Real, you earn $120,000 in revenue share, and at eXp, you earn $114,000 in revenue share. And let's say that you have 100 agents in your downline. At Real, you'll earn about $240,000 a year in revenue share, and at eXp, you earn $228,000 a year in revenue share. So now let's go ahead and run some very specific scenarios and actually break down what tier these agents are actually in. So the first scenario, let's say that you have 3 capping agents in your tier 1. Well, at Real Broker, you earn $12,000 a year in revenue share. This is enough to cover your $12,000 a year cap to the company. So at Real, this is a goal of a lot of agents, is just bringing in 3 capping agents, and essentially they're then keeping 100% of their commission from then on. So at eXp, you'd earn $8,400 a year for having 3 capping agents in your tier 1. If you want enough agents to fully cover your cap at eXp, you'd actually need 6 agents in your tier 1 in order to cover your $16,000 a year cap. So if your goal is just to bring in enough agents to fully cover your cap, you're gonna have a lot easier time doing that at Real than you will at eXp. So let's move on to scenario number 2. Let's say that you bring in 10 capping agents in tier 1, but they don't bring in any other agents. You just have 10 capping agents in your tier 1. Well, at Real, you earn $4,000 a year for each of those capping agents, so that'd be $40,000 a year in revenue share, and you'll unlock your second tier. At eXp, you earn $2,800 a year for each of those agents, so you earn $28,000 a year in revenue share, and you'll unlock your tier 2 and your tier 3 benefits. So clearly you make more money in revenue share at Real with this scenario, but at eXp you've unlocked 1 additional tier. So for scenario 3, let's say that you bring in 15 producing agents into your tier 1. And let's be very generous, and let's say that each of those agents then go on to bring in on average 1 agent. So you have 15 agents in all your tiers that you've unlocked at both companies, and let's run that and see at which company you'll make more money in revenue share. So Real Broker, for having 15 capping agents in your tier 1, you'll earn $60,000. For having 15 capping agents in your tier 2, you earn $48,000. For having 15 capping agents in tier 3, you earn $36,000, for a total of $144,000 in revenue share. Now at eXp, you've actually unlocked your 4th tier revenue share benefits as well for having 15 producing agents in your tier 1. So at eXp, in your tier 1, you earn $42,000 a year. In your tier 2, you earn $48,000 a year. Your tier 3, you earn $30,000 a year. And your tier 4, you earn $18,000 a year, for a total of $138,000 a year in revenue share. Now you notice that even with the extra tier at eXp, in this scenario, you're still making more money at Real Broker because they pay out more on those tiers than eXp does. And I want to point out that in this scenario, we're actually being very generous to eXp because we're comparing a 45 agent network at Real to a 60 agent network at eXp. So let's go ahead and run scenario 4. And let's say that you have 25 producing agents in your tier 1, which is going to unlock all 5 benefits of revenue share at Real and unlock 6 tiers of revenue share at eXp. And again, let's be very generous here and say that on average, every agent's going to bring in at least 1 more agent. So you have 25 agents going all the way down. Let's run those numbers and see how much revenue share you'd earn at the 2 different companies. So at Real, for 25 agents in your tier 1, you'll earn $100,000 in revenue share. For tier 2, you earn $80,000. For tier 3, you earn $60,000. For tier 4, you earn $40,000. And for tier 5, you'll earn $20,000, for a total of $300,000 in revenue share. At eXp, for your tier 1, you earn $70,000. For your tier 2, you earn $80,000. For your tier 3, you earn $50,000. For tier 4, you earn $30,000. For tier 5, you earn $20,000. And for tier 6, you earn $50,000, for a total of $300,000 in revenue share. So as you can see in this scenario, at both companies, you actually earn the exact same amount of revenue share, even though you have an additional tier unlocked at eXp. And again, we're being very generous to eXp here because we're comparing a 125 agent network at Real to 150 agent network at eXp. And again, I want to point out that we're using an unlikely 1-to-1 ratio in the scenario that every agent on average is going to bring in one other agent. If we made that ratio a little bit smaller, a 1 to 0.5 ratio, every agent on average can bring in 0.5 agents or 0.7 or 0.8 agents. If you added that into it, then you're definitely going to make more money in those scenarios at Real than you would at eXp. So let's take a look at scenario 5. And let's say that you bring in 40 producing agents into your tier 1. This is enough to unlock all 7 levels of revenue share at eXp, and obviously will unlock all your revenue share at Real Broker as well. But instead of doing a 1-to-1 ratio, let's do a 1 to 0.5 ratio. So on average, every agent you bring to the company will bring in, on average, 0.5 an agent, half an agent. So you need 2 tier 1 agents to get a tier 2 agent. And that is what I showed you was my ratio. I have 32 tier 1 agents, 16 tier 2 agents. So let's go ahead and run these numbers and again see how much money you can expect to make in revenue share from both companies. So what I'm going to be doing is starting at 40 agents in tier 1 and then cutting the number of agents in half for every tier below that. So we're creating kind of an inverted pyramid, which is what I think that is the most likely scenario of what your revenue share is actually going to look like. So a Real Broker, you start off with 40 agents in your tier 1, which will earn you $160,000 a year in revenue share. You have 20 agents in your tier 2, which will earn you $64,000 a year in revenue share. 10 agents in your tier 3, which will earn you $24,000 a year in revenue share. 5 agents in your tier 4, which will earn you $8,000 a year revenue share, and 3 agents in your tier 5, which will earn you $2,400 a year in revenue share, for a total of $258,000 in revenue share. So at eXp, you start off with 40 agents in your tier 1, which will earn you $112,000 a year in revenue share. 20 agents in your tier 2 will earn you $64,000 a year in revenue share. 10 agents in your tier 3 will earn you $20,000 a year in revenue share. 5 agents in your tier 4 will earn you $6,000 in revenue share. 3 agents in your tier 5 will earn you $2,400 a year in revenue share. 2 agents in your tier 6 will earn you $4,000 a year in revenue share, and 1 agent in your tier 7 will earn you $4,000 a year in revenue share. So that is a total of $212,000 a year in revenue share. So again, even with all 7 tiers of revenue share unlocked at eXp, with this much more likely scenario of you creating an inverted pyramid for your downline, you're going to make a good bit more money at Real than you will at eXp. So I do want to show you a scenario where you will make more money at eXp. So let's do the same scenario with 40 agents in your tier 1. And again, let's assume each agent on average brings in 1 other agent. So you have 40 agents, every single tier going all the way down. Let's run those numbers and see how much revenue share you can expect to earn at both companies. So a Real Broker, for 40 agents in your tier 1, you earn $160,000 a year in revenue share. For tier 2, you earn $128,000 a year in revenue share. For tier 3, you earn $96,000 a year in revenue share. For tier 4, you earn $64,000 a year in revenue share. For tier 5, you earn $3,200 a year in revenue share, for a total of $480,000 in revenue share. At eXp, for 40 agents in your tier 1, you earn $112,000 a year in revenue share. For tier 2, you earn $128,000 a year in revenue share. For tier 3, you earn $80,000 a year in revenue share. For tier 4, you earn $48,000 a year in revenue share. For tier 5, you earn $32,000 a year in revenue share. For tier 6, you earn $80,000 a year in revenue share. For tier 7, earn $160,000 a year in revenue share, for a total of $640,000 in revenue share. So as you can see in this scenario, if you have all 7 tiers unlocked at eXp, you will make $160,000 more at eXp than you will at a Real Broker in the form of revenue share. But I just want to point out that this is depending on having and maintaining 40 producing agents in your tier 1. If just one of those agents left and you only had 39 producing agents in your tier 1, you would lose out that entire 7th tier of revenue share, which is $160,000. So without that 7th tier, you'd make the exact same amount of revenue share as you do at a Real Broker. So as you can see, there's definitely some pros and cons to both companies' revenue share programs, and both of them can be very, very profitable and rewarding. So my honest takeaway from comparing the 2 revenue share programs is that if you want to be a full-time recruiter, and this is all that you want to do is just focus on recruiting and building out a downline, If you think that you can get 40 producing agents and maintain that number in your tier 1, you probably will make more money at eXp. So if you just want to do just recruiting, you will make more money at eXp, and it'd probably be easier for you to do that as well, since Real has a lot of restrictions on what you can do for recruiting. But if you are just a producing agent and this revenue share is going to be a side income or kind of a side hustle that you build up over a few years, or if you have a big team, you're trying to figure out which company you're going to make more revenue share on with them, or if you have somebody significant in your life like I do that you want to will your revenue share to, I think that Real Broker is probably a better option for you. So if you're interested in learning more about Real Broker, I have a link to my calendar down in the description below where you can schedule a one-on-one video call with myself. I can show you some of the technology that Real offers, go over some of the numbers, and answer any of your questions about the company. Or if you want to learn more about the differences between Real Broker and eXp, check out this video I did right here where I do a much more in-depth side-by-side comparison of the two companies. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you.